Historic number of 2023 anti-LGBTQ+ laws sweeping U.S. from State House to Congress. Laws restricting gender expression in public and in private have been around in the U.S. for more than 100 years, with one in New York only being repealed in 2021. Unfortunately, as of 2023, International Transgender Day of Visibility, the year legislative session begins, politicians across the country have already introduced nearly 400 total bills restricting LGBTQ people, targeting their freedom of expression, the safety of transgender students, and access to health care for gender dysphoria. The bills being introduced attack LGBTQ+ people, particularly trans youth, in 7 primary areas, including healthcare access, school and education, free speech and expression, access to accurate IDs, weakening civil rights laws, public accommodations, and other anti-LGBTQ bills. More than half of these bills focus on the trans community. In 2022, the ACLU tracked a record-breaking 278 bills targeting the LGBTQ people, largely focused on trans youth. 20 became law, including 17 aimed at restricting the rights of transgender student athletes. Chase Strandiago, Deputy Director of Transgender Justice at the ACLU's LGBTQ+ and HIV project, said, end quote, "Across the country, trans people and our families are gearing up to fight back and prevent every one of these bills from becoming law." End of quote. The history of LGBTQ people in the U.S. shows we are hardly strangers to having our healthcare politicized and our safety threatened by misinformation and misguided politicians. Even in the face of such an unprecedented effort to deny our existence, we are only more determined to build the future we all deserve. So the word misinformation was used by me right there. And I'm going to say that a misinformation is a lie. And many of those things that they say about our community are lies. And many of the things that they're using to base these bills, specifically in Florida, against the health care of children, of trans children, are all lies. There are no surgeries that are performed on trans children, okay? If anyone speaks of having these surgeries in the past, it was way before we had WPATH. These surgeries do not exist. It's done to really over-dramatize and to confuse people. What do you think?
I think it's so important to mention the importance of the White House or the federal level in helping us and in support us. I think it's so important. My organization hosting this year a gathering, a focus group with Rachel Levine, who is the Vice Secretary of Health, and we bring these issues, and it's so important this kind of legislator or important people in the federal level listen our histories, our true histories, and nobody have to tell the history about us. Only we can give the correct history.
Right. And I totally agree with you. Yesterday we was at a rally on Wilton Drive in regards to flags and our trans healthcare and our drag performers. And I think that it's important that our stories are heard. I was saying to myself, I'm wondering where are they coming up with these bills or who they're talking to, because it seems like the trans community is not involved when we're having these conversations and all of these things. I'm not sure where they're getting them from. So I think that is important, like education and us being on a platform like this to be able to educate those individuals. You know, the other day I spoke about, you know, you don't necessarily have to accept what we're doing, but respect us. Mm-hmm. But no, you should accept it, because we accept a lot of things that are happening now in the community.
Agreed.
And we should be treated the same.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. You know, a couple things really stick out for me. When it comes to gender-affirming healthcare, you know, this is life-saving healthcare. This is healthcare that saves trans and non-binary lives. Mm-hmm. And the state of Florida is ranked, I believe we're 47th when it comes to healthcare access in the entire U.S. So this is a state where our healthcare systems are already broken. And instead of trying to fix a broken system, we have a state that is trying to restrict healthcare even further than it already is. This is not easy to access for anyone much less for trans people. Healthcare is really, really hard to access, and they are trying to restrict this life-saving care. Another thing that really jumps out at me, last year, I believe the number was 278 bills across the US targeting LGBTQ plus people. And this year, legislative sessions are just getting underway in the US. And right here in Florida, you know, we're only a few weeks into legislative session, and we already have even more bills than ever before. Across the US, I believe it's more than 430 bills right now taking aim at our community. So we're seeing the attacks against our community growing, and I think that's a response to this widespread fear, this widespread misinformation that Morgan spoke about. And, you know, it's really, really important that we all use the platforms that we have, every space that we go into, take up that space, occupy that space with our voices, with our presence, with our visibility.
And I think that it's best that we all get involved. We have to make sure we're voting. We have to make sure that our stories are getting told. And that makes me want to mention the fact that, you know, the Dolphin Democrats, as well as the Human Rights Campaign, are sending people to Tallahassee to tell our stories on April 3rd and April 4th. And I hope that each one of you, and we get as many people as possible to fill that bus and take it to Tallahassee and tell our stories.
Yeah, but I think especially in Florida is just a personal feeling from the government. The government don't look, the DeSantis is don't looking at us as a human being. He just put those kind of laws because he have a personal feelings to pursue the president, be a candidate, and that's why he know transgender have a lot of attention when we're talking about political and president candidates. So that is, I think, is more personal feeling of him as against the transgender community.
LGBTQ plus news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Lara are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out television network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure the growth of the entire LGBTQ plus community.